Salutations, incarnations. Welcome back. This is Sevn Sharman. This is my channel, Channel Sevn. And we're here to explore further the realities seen and unseen in existence. Thank you so much for any likes and subscriptions you may do to this channel. It helps the work that I am doing be brought to the world. Appreciate it. Thank you. Now, today's theme, following on from the highest technology on the planet, which I incidentally explored in a last video. This technology, which ultimately turns out to be us. That's right. The highest technology on the planet is you and I. If you want to understand how and exactly why, please go look at that. Understanding that you will have some comprehension of why we are the highest tech. Today, we're going to go forward into this domain and explore in greater detail the nature of this interrelationship, the nature of our unique position in creation now at this time in existence. Yes? For we are all gathered here today at this time for a purpose. Part of this purpose will be disclosed to you during my talks to you. So if you have time to listen to them, you will begin to contain this perspective as well. At least I hope so. So following on from the highest tech on the planet, which is we see that this fourth kingdom of ours that we so radiantly, hopefully, fearfully, excitedly inhabit, this third dimension in which is contained the ability to interface, receive, and transmit into the fourth dimension through the ability of, through the medium of feelings, superluminal light of the first order, and into the fifth dimension, the world of even more tenuous existence where only thought takes form, and our nervous system being the antenna component as well as transmitter for this incredibly tenuous propensity, octave of existence. Well, so far beyond the density of this third dimension, we interface simultaneously with the physical world, with the emotional world, the astral plane, and with the mental world, the fifth dimension, through all modes of thought. Human beings have unlimited capacity for feeling and thinking. So we have a potential 100% access to the soul plane and to the mental plane, 4D and 5D, here in 3D. This is an extraordinary state. So I just want to reiterate that for everybody. Many people have said you have no idea of the degree of preciousness that the universe has spent millions and billions of years evolving, and you are the outcome of that. In fact, there's a great meme. I'd just like to mention that right now. And it was very simple. It has starry sky, and there was just one sentence written on it. And it said, you are the result of 4 billion years of evolutionary success. Fucking act like it. I was like, great insight. Wanted to share that with you. Just imagine that in your mind's eye. A great call to action is what I thought. So we are here in 3D, operating in multiple dimensions. The next frontier of our existence, the next frontier of evolution is obviously going to take place towards the next kingdom that we are poised to enter. We are the fourth kingdom. So the next evolution, the theme, the central theme of this talk today is the frontier place that we are at, the place at the frontier of which we stand, a heralding of a time to come whose symptoms have already been manifest on this planet through the agency of our human race. And we will explore these in detail today so we can better understand the nature of this transition, the nature of this kingdom that we stand in front of, the nature of the gateway itself to this kingdom, and how we might access this gateway. So the three worlds. The three worlds of 3D, 4D, 5D are actually manifest inside our bodies as three centers of consciousness. Okay? So we find ourselves with different propensities, specializations, all within a certain framework, we human beings. You see, we have instinctive awareness linked to the lower chakra centers and ability to handle and maintain and manage all physical world relations. Then we have emotional awareness centered in the medium chakra centers, all relating to our awareness of our own feelings and the feelings of others, and the feeling of the experience of the world having an emotional type nature and our response to that, which we basically call beauty when we respond to it, or fear and ugliness when we depart from that. And the 5D within us as the thinking center, the center that has predominated the last 2,000 years and become unnaturally dominant in its effort to reach a level of evolution that has preceded it. We will go into that in this talk today to understand how our minds, why they've gone off track and why they will return is an important part of where we stand and where we are going. This is all part of it, you see. So within us, the three centers, and human consciousness is split between these three. Some of us, a preferential modality of consciousness is in this world, acting in this world as this world. As our hands and feet and bodies and minds and these things we act. These are the instinctive people, the people who manifest great things in this world through the power of this. Then we have the people of the heart, the people who in the Enneagram, this is perfectly described by the way, the three instinctive centers in solar plexus, heart chakra, and mind. So human consciousness is divided into these three centers. Every one of them operates within us. Each of us has a particular preference in certain domains we operate. Some of us have a thinking center, operational headquarters. Some of us an emotional center, operational headquarters. Some of us an instinctual center, operational headquarters. And yet all of us think, feel, and act. You see, we contain all three dimensions because all three, the fifth, the fourth, and the third, are multiply operational simultaneously within us. This manifests as the three aspects of acting, or the three aspects of being in this world: thinking, feeling, doing. Excellent. We can see how the higher is reflected again in the lower as above, so below. We here, so below, looking upon this nature of our own makeup, we glimpse again the makeup of the higher, and with it we can see the wonder and awe connected to it, and then behold ourselves in a greater light. This is a good view. So now we come back to the kingdoms. The three dimensions in which we operate simultaneously are us as the fourth kingdom: mineral, vegetable, animal, human. I've gone into it enough in the past. I will not go into that any further. So here we stand at the forefront of the fourth kingdom as the highest technology on the planet. Where we stand now, evolution, as I said before in the meme, has spent an eternity getting ready for. And I'm going to take us on a very short journey into this phase of preparation so that we may better appreciate where we have come to, where we stand today, this humble, privileged position. If we glimpse the great story that has unfolded for us to get here, I found at least a deepening appreciation for what it means to be here now with you, with us. So, in order to build these three great centers in which consciousness now operates through, in which the third dimension, the fourth dimension, 4D, the fifth dimension, the plane of thought, all operate simultaneously, this is the result of billions of years of evolution, physical evolution. So we go back much more than 10,000 years, much more than that. So I'm going to break that ice by simply stating that there have been many phases of bygone civilizations in which the soul wave of humanity has stood at the forefront of creation, entered it, and over eons molded it to hold more of life, light, consciousness inside it. In order to do this, great foundations must be laid. We have spoken of 7 kingdoms of nature, which we will identify today concretely, in case you're curious. Very exciting, very profound, very moving, very inspiring. Our state at level 4, the 4th kingdom, to be reminded, this 4th kingdom began in humanity. You know, we have the mineral, the vegetable, the animal, and the human. As the life wave went from the animal into the human, it had to build a foundation entirely different, built upon the animal kingdom, incorporating the achievements that had gone before, just as we incorporate the achievements of the plant kingdom inside us and the mineral kingdom as our structural nature, yes, and chemistry. This fourth, this place that we arrived was the beginning of the molding of this form. At the beginning of this form, just like the computers in the 70s, like I said in the last talk, it was gigantic. So the first iteration of hardware to hold the first concept of software was gigantic. Okay, and this is not without reason, not without coincidence, and not without synchronicity. Because the first forms we inhabited as a soul wave coming into this planet, inhabiting bodies that were already being shaped for the purpose. These 7 kingdoms, the first 7 kingdoms we went through, the first 2 we went through, were not physical in nature. They were etheric. The 4th density of matter, which we in modern science now call plasma, there's a term for this plasma, which I love to still call the etheric nature, the etheric energies, part of which is going to be the foundation of a new talk called the life force, of which the ethers are a foundational component. But for now, we are just in the mode of, in the first 2 kingdoms of humanity, of which we are in the 4th, ascending to 7. This mode, because we are now the final form, remember. So when you hit the 4th kingdom, as the 4th kingdom, life has gone, okay, here is my perfect final form. Now I shall improve everything so that that form shall become ultimately my home, my resting place in matter. And to begin this temple, we must first begin with molding the ethers to shape, to hold and mold the atomics that the ethers command, so that the atomics can be shaped in such a way as to hold the ethers in place, so that the soul vehicle can be superimposed upon this and interwoven with and find expression in physicality through the medium of the ethers. So the ethers must be shaped and formed over periods of time. This was our work, our own selves worked this. As we did so, great achievements were made in such that we were ready for our first incarnate form. I won't go into great depths here, I'm just trying to skim over it to give you the basic picture, which is very important. This form we began as large, like the first computer. Yes, indeed, giants. We were giants. Gigantism, the word titan, comes from the fact our forms, our first forms on this planet were titanic in nature. Just like that first computer, remember, as big as a room, far less powerful than the phone you carry in your phone today, in your hand and pockets today. And yet, the very foundation for the very tech you carry. Without it, not possible. So now we look at the first possibility of humanity that came into the planet. We were giants. And this is so far back that there are no remains. Nothing remains of this. The continents upon which these civilizations took place, so-called Pangaea, Lemuria, the great unified single continent on the planet before they all broke away. There are some theories to this. Even modern science lends itself to the unified single continent before everything broke into pieces. Maybe some truth in that. All we know is that the beings of we who lived in these places, who formed a fledgling humanity, closer to the psychic world still than we were to the physical, and yet incarnate. Many of the early versions of our bodies that began to develop the fledgling nervous system incarnated the sensory organs and sight. Fledgling sight was created, although incredibly basic at that time. And we have the existence and the fable of the central eye. This theme of the Cyclops was indeed a symbol of a bygone era, an earlier phase of humanity. Still connected to the ethers and to the psychic realms, to the astral realms, more than we do to the 3D. We're talking here about a physical evolution and ordering of matter in order to make way for higher versions of consciousness. The Lemurian evolution went over a gigantic period of time. This, by the way, this Lemurian phase of us was called the third great race. Humanity will go through 7 great permutations, 7 great races, as it is called. These 7 great races are our journey from dust to star. From dust to star. 7 great races. The 7 kingdoms. So we are in Lemuria. In Lemuria, the basic muscular skeletal system of the human race was created. The sinews, the tendons, the musculature, the skeletal, the ordering of organs, the placement of things in place, and the gradual evolution of these over time to gradually harness and shape this basic mammalian structure to house ever more sophisticated endocrine systems. Because the endocrine system, although not the focus of the third evolution, of the third race's evolution, was the setup for the endocrine system was most important in order to be the beginning point for the fourth race's evolution. We come to the next great age, the fourth great race, because we won't go into details about all the various things that happened in Lemuria and through Pangaea and the primordial continent and our journey there. Suffice to say, it lies far back enough in origins for just to be useful as a symbol of where we came from, and that it was us then as it is us now. We jump now to the fourth great race. The fourth great race emerged out of one of the sub-races of the third great race, one of the Lemurian sub-races. In the nature of its own evolution, which was physical perfection, one of the sub-races had a slightly increased specialization. The fourth sub-race of the third great root race had a slight specialization in the foundations of the endocrine system. And as the 5th, 6th, and 7th sub-races of the Lemurian evolution went on to become more and more empowered, physically intimidating and powerful and masterful versions of humanity, these versions considered the fourth sub-race as definitely inferior. The seeds of greatness they created were not visible or needed for that particular evolution. They were not favored, nor valued, nor even recognized. However, the seeds were born within, and as the 5th, 6th, and 7th sub-races went through their permutations, reaching their culmination, the pinnacle of whatever they created, their civilization then collapsed and fell, because that was not the ultimate goal of humanity. Neither is ours our goal. Either it will fall and we will ascend into another form, which we are in the process of building. These videos help us to understand what this form is. Where we come from first must be understood in order to know where we are going. This is the great history of humanity. So the fourth great race, whose purpose is what? What did the fourth great race seek to evolve? Seek to, what was its breakthrough? Again, this great race over 7 permutations, 7 evolutions from a first sub-race through to the 7th sub-race of the fourth great root race. The fourth root race's achievement was the development in entirety of the human endocrine system. Yes. The limbic system, the lymphatic system, all part of the third phase of evolution. Now we create the seat of the soul inside biology. So over these 7 races, these 7 sub-races, sub-permutations, 7 versions of the same race, by the way, over time separated so massively, over hundreds of thousands of years probably, at least 100,000, that the awareness of all these successive permutations, successive variations of this one race seeking one goal was lost to the individual members and civilizations that grew up, flourished and fell, and to be supplanted again. They were lost. The awareness of this was lost, except to a few who kept this knowledge precious. The historians, the religious keepers, the ones who connected the race to through the thread of light to spirit and kept alive the awareness of who they were and where they came from and where they were going. This has been kept alive for millennia, for countless millennia. And so it is still today. The 4th great race of Atlantis had in one of its permutations, its 5th subrace. Again, a certain development, slightly off-center from the main drive of developing the endocrine system, which it certainly did, but it had here in its carried its seeds of enhancements in the nervous system, greater responsiveness, a greater ability to somehow manifest, greater sensitivity, means to express were found in this 5th subrace, although not considered in any way superior by those whose function and purpose it was to manifest the 6th and 7th subraces of the 4th great root race into its perfection of endocrine completion. These beings were considered themselves, and their civilizations are still known to us through the histories of the South American peoples, who are some of its descendants today. By the way, a correlation between the ancient races and today's races is very prevalent. I will get into that later, but all the races on the planet today tie in to every single one of our journeys on this planet. It's quite beautiful and poetic, actually. So this 4th great race, the 6th and 7th subraces, the high civilizational aspects of this 4th root race, whose civilization was called Atlantis. Okay, this was the name given to the development of humanity, creating the foundation endocrine system, so that the human soul in its immense and perfect spectrum could be made manifest in chemistry, in bloodstreams, in bodies, so that we as souls could feel the nature of the soul unrestrictedly here in 3D, in matter. A supreme achievement, the accomplishment of which the 4th great root race was responsible for this. However, in the 5th subrace, as I said, slightly overlooked in the great race towards mastery of the endocrine system and the achievements that arose from that, greater psychic phenomenon, more mastery over the etheric kingdoms in nature, mastery of crystal intelligence and sciences, geomancy based on understandings of this, the ability to alter tectonic energies, manifest geomantic, geomancy, weather manipulation, all these kinds of arts and sciences. To some degree also the nature of gravity was understood because it is connected to the ethers, which will soon resurface on this planet as it already has been discovered many decades ago and yet has been hidden from humanity. That's another topic altogether. For now, we know in Atlantis, anti-gravity was achieved by virtue of mastery of the ethers. So this 5th subrace carried the specialization of the nervous system, not considered advantageous for its own evolution, and yet from this 5th subrace of the 4th great root race came the seeds of the next great race, the 5th great race of humanity was born from the ancestors and the descendants of this 5th subrace, themselves lowly, mediocre seeming function cultures inside the great hierarchy of the Atlantean culture, whose 6th and 7th subraces and their cultures we know have come to us as the name Toltec and Olmec. Some of these names are resonant of high cultures of Atlantis. So now we come to the fifth great root race. What is its purpose? The third was the muscular system, the skeletal system, the lymphatic system, the baseline function. As we went through Atlantis, the bodies became smaller. Remember, they were gigantic in Lemuria. As we improved, and the next whole root race, the fourth root race, we were from 30 to 35 feet, I'm just guessing here, down to, shall we say, between 12 to 16 feet. Our average size became smaller and smaller and smaller as the technology of refinement began to compact itself. No longer needed to be so large. Refinements continuously miniaturized evolution. And so our size became smaller and smaller. And so we have in the fifth race, we have the emergence of, we come into this place, which is us now, on the basis of the third Lemurian evolution of our skeletal system, muscular system, lymphatic system, on the basis of the Atlantean system, which is our fully functioning endocrine system, giving us access to the whole spectrum of the human soul. Every soul light you can imagine can be broadcast inside matter, inside us, only inside us. And now the fifth great race, the next great race, born probably 40,000 years ago. This departs from whatever mainstream science has managed to gather or decided to inform us about, by the way. The knowledge of this will come into light more and more. It emerged briefly onto the planet about 100 years ago. An attempt to recreate and reconnect humanity with its origins was made through theosophy, anthroposophy, and a various wave of light coming into the system, coming into our evolutionary wave, in order to, fast track another level of evolution inside us. We'll get back to where that actually takes place very soon. So the fifth great race, this great race is called Arya. Now, we're not going to get into all the details of this because that is a subject for another talk about how all beings on this planet participate in one of the three great races, all of which remain, all of which are present here today. Very mysterious. Suffice to say that the purpose of the Arya race, and this has nothing to do with what Adolf H. Was on about, 80 years ago when he went on trying to elevate his Germanic Teutonic peoples into the position of being solely representative of this name and this word. In truth, many, many more peoples on this planet are included and involved in this, as we shall in a future talk see. Stay tuned for that one, another banger. For now, suffice to say, we arrive in the fifth kingdom, whose purpose is to evolve the human nervous system. Yes, the nervous system, the antenna to 5D, remember? So through the progress of this fifth great race up until now, we have progressed the nervous system to the point where we are now able to think nearly all thought. Just as our endocrine system is able to process and turn into physical blood chemistry every single superluminal feeling, so too our brain is able to produce and spark and fire neurons to generate thought inside the brain hemisphere that is commiserate with thought as a superluminal 5D vibration. Okay, so our nervous systems have been developed, are in development, in fact, and these kingdoms we go through, the 7 kingdoms we go through, should show the perfection that is meant to arrive within the evolution of this. So now we come to the exact point of where we are today, in a fully functioning physical body, fully functioning endocrine body, and now fledgling and yet mature, not fully developed nervous system. This is why, by the way, our hearts often get away from our minds. Our minds are still in development. The power of our thought has not extended to its fullest capacity. It will do so soon, very, very soon. Within our lifetimes, most likely, if not within the next generations ahead, human thought will reach into its most final, most extended function. AI will be one of the tools of this, for AI deals only in information and therefore only in 3D with the results of 5D reality, although 3D can never create it, for only thought can transmit and receive. And yet AI has become increasingly able to understand this language model that 5D exists, what thought is, and be able to mold it and shape it down. It's an extraordinary phenomenon to watch. It will not become evolutionary relevant until AI starts to be linked to quantum computing and become linked to cellular circuitry. So the combination of using the cell, the living cell itself, as a form of circuit. That lies ahead in the future. So that would be the combination of information technology of which we stand nearly at the forefront today. However, this place in which we stand now, this fourth kingdom, is on the forefront to the fifth kingdom, because we are now at a place in our racial evolution, in our race's evolution, where the next phase of evolution is upon us and has been upon us for 100 years. Over 100 years, visibly unfolding on the planet. Now, this advent of a new kingdom that we will enter into and wield the powers of and benefit from the blessings of, from its insight, revelation, its interconnectedness, its symbiotic nature and understanding multiple things. You've got to understand one of the aspects of the fifth kingdom is, to tell you a story, somewhat akin to, we here in the fourth kingdom use our eyes and our mind to focus on one screen, like you were doing now with me. Your attention is on me, your eyes are on me, your senses are bared towards me, your understanding is bared towards me, and so you're processing this body of information. Now, the next kingdom, the fifth kingdom, the sixth dimension of reality that we are entering into, this fifth kingdom, is a kingdom in which information is processed completely differently. It is not processed sequentially in time and space as we do here, linked in the brain, limited to time and space and the time required to cross it. Thought, time required to conceive of a thought and hold that thought, maintain the thought, and to maintain it over time or alter it as may be. So this time and space limitation is transcended at the next frontier. No longer beholden to time and space limitations. What it means is that instead of looking at one single screen with one single content, imagine beholding simultaneously 100 screens of 100 forms of intricate, deep, powerful content simultaneously. Simultaneously. This is no small feat. That's the best way to kind of create an analogy on what we're dealing with here and what we're in the face, what we are at the beginning of. Okay? That's why this inspiration age is so alive. It's so bright, because it is another way entirely in order to process information. We will go through exactly how within us this unfolds and the mechanisms that are alive within us and where they are at and what they are about to do. Okay? So, with this great responsibility we now stand in front of, which we even hold now as the fourth kingdom, great responsibility, we hold the responsibility of knowledge. And finding knowledge, finding truth. Whereas, unfortunately, for thousands of years, humanity has misused truth because humanity is largely motivated by third kingdom motivations. We are fourth kingdom, yes, and our mind has glorified the third kingdom and created a world in extension of the third kingdom, which it is not meant to do. We are an intermediary kingdom, the fourth kingdom, between the third and the fifth. And as an intermediary, we associate most directly with the kingdom we have come from, the animal kingdom. This is understandable. Life understands this. The departure of humanity from its angelic origins and its angelic destiny is a necessary and unfortunate part of coming through an animal kingdom into the human kingdom, being given free will, being given the nervous system in order to understand, to begin to understand and use this aspect of self to comprehend reality, assimilate it, and hold it in its rightful place. This is happening. This information serves this rightful place of truth and existence inside our mental construct. With this rightful place, a door opens to the next, assuredly, as you shall see. So this dawning of a new mind of ours, this fourth kingdom transition to the fifth, this understanding that our society, our civilization, and our individual lives are still largely dominated by influences from the third kingdom and our mental preoccupation and identification with that third kingdom. Our entire societal structures are based on the animal kingdom. Yes? Everything we have built is based upon a scarcity, predatory, might makes right. If all the things that operate naturally in the third kingdom, they operate in the fourth kingdom with the most unfortunate consequences that we have seen for tens of thousands, of hundreds of thousands of years. War, conquest, misery, suffering. This is an unfortunate byproduct of the fourth kingdom's over-identification with its third kingdom nature. Yeah, we're still too close to the third kingdom in identification. Remember, consciousness is the ability to become identical with everything. Consciousness is the ability to become identical with anything. If you become identical in your God-given consciousness with the animal kingdom within you, well, then the animal kingdom you shall become. And so you shall think, so you shall behave, and so you shall act, and so you shall create, and so you shall sow what it is we reap. So this identification must change, and part of the information given you today is the way in which this association must and will shift away from the third kingdom to the proper nature of fourth kingdom, our actual makeup, and our actual makeup as the seed and legacy of the fifth kingdom dawning now within life and within us, for we are life and we are at the frontier of life. Remember, we are at the frontier, people, the very frontier of evolution, and we are what this looks like. 4 billion years of evolutionary success, fucking act like it. Remember, that's a sobering statement. So we're going to hope to learn to act like it, and we are learning slowly to act like it. As a result of that, many of the systems that are surrounding us, this is a subject for another talk, will actually fall and crumble. For like many past civilizations, they are not built with any form of sustainable model in mind. They are built on the animal kingdom, which is unsustainable in the fourth kingdom. It's inoperable past a certain point. Humanity is not destined to be a predator. It is not destined to be individualized. This is just an unfortunate intermediary step in evolution. That intermediary step is now beginning to complete. We're no longer required to progress by identifying with our lower kingdoms. We instead can identify the higher kingdoms. This is what the fifth kingdom is all about. And there is a gateway to that fifth kingdom, which I said at the very beginning, this portal, we stand in front of this gateway. What is this great gateway? This gateway, I'm going to call it the perfect relationship. That is the great gateway to the kingdom, to the fifth kingdom that we stand in front of and see. What do we see? What we see is a symbol. That symbol I use words for, which I call the perfect relationship. Now we should go back and understand, what is a perfect relationship? Is there such a thing? And as we shall see, our ability to understand the nature of a perfect relationship, of the perfect relationship, for there is only one, goes back to will and love. By the way, it's interconnected, and mind and heart all interconnected, as we shall immediately see. These two convergences lead to another way of being in the world, and are designed to be each the key in the lock for this portal. You see, this portal is a closed portal, and it has a key to it, and it has a lock. Okay? And it is locked. But it has not been locked to all. For you see, although we are as fourth kingdom entering into the fifth kingdom has existed within us, has existed within humanity. Okay? In fact, at this point, this is the point where we shall briefly describe the kingdoms, now where we are transiting from and through, where we go towards, okay, in this depth. And the one law that runs within these kingdoms, the one great law that operates within these kingdoms, in order to understand the gateway before which we stand, which is locked, we need first to see what is the lock and what is the key and how to operate these. Okay? In the law of the seven kingdoms, the mineral, vegetable, animal, human, fifth, sixth, and seventh kingdoms, which shall as yet remain unnamed. The law operating between these kingdoms is such that any one kingdom only has sufficient means evolved in itself to recognize the existence of maximum one kingdom above it. Okay? So how do we explain that? The mineral kingdom, only basically all kingdoms above the mineral, the vegetable, the animal, the human, towards the mineral kingdom, they are all the same. They are just initiations of chemical workings, precipitations, mechanical forces applied from the external world to the mineral kingdom. The vegetable kingdom is better. The vegetable kingdom is easier to illustrate this example, really. In the second vegetable kingdom, the plant kingdom, minerals operate as the baseline functional structure of the plants, and yet they have the ability to harness more spectrums of life, we call this light, to produce outcomes, to grow, the first growing mechanisms, which is the second kingdom. Now, the second kingdom is a plant. It has basic etherics, and responds to etheric vibrations, can be enhanced or diminished as a result of the quality of these vibrations. Now, the plant kingdom, to the plant, it is irrelevant whether an animal, third kingdom, comes by and nibbles some of its branches, or a human being with scissors or its hands plucks it. There is no difference to the plant, you see, because the plant has no means to ascertain, to discern the difference between a third and a fourth kingdom. For the plant, everything is basically the third kingdom. Okay? The same applies to the third kingdom. So now we have the third kingdom, the animal kingdom. For the animal kingdom, everything, fourth kingdom and above, is the same. Let's take an example. And in order to illustrate this example, we need to briefly name the fifth kingdom that we are actually trying to describe today. For the first time, we will name it. It is called the kingdom of the soul, even though the soul is the fourth dimension. It is indeed the kingdom of the soul because that's the next dimension we will enter into consciously. Even though we operate in 5D and 4D, the kingdom of the soul is the fifth kingdom because it's there that we are now going to gain operational awareness. Okay? Operational awareness in the fifth kingdom bestows a certain quality upon beings. As I've said before, imagine the one TV screen that you're watching, the one screen with all of its content, and now imagine 100 such screens broadcasting all simultaneously, all interlinked, all individual threads of something that, when witnessed simultaneously, merge into one living, moving tapestry of awareness. Incredible. So the soul kingdom, our human consciousness, has access to this realm. And when it does, it sees things in forms, just like I said with Bach, where he hears the entire symphony as one living chord. And his attempts to compose are attempts to actually slow that down and stretch it out over time. And when he's successful, great harmonics result, and everybody's like, no, everybody all the fourth kingdom who witnessed the works of the fifth kingdom are very clear, generally unanimous around the fact that this being is exceptional. And so the fourth kingdom, we, as civilizations historically, have a name for such beings who enter the fifth kingdom and bring things back. We call them geniuses. That's right. The genius is the fifth kingdom. Remember, the fourth kingdom is the final form of life. From now on, every single kingdom in its evolution will take place inside. No longer will there be any external, necessarily visible markers of this transition. Important to remember. For the fifth kingdom beings, they have had, by and large, most unfortunate lives. It is not a privilege to be born in the fifth kingdom, let me tell you that. Looking back at the history of all geniuses in the world, they have often lived lives of substantial misery. Their lives have been those of toil and struggle to connect to a realm in which the ideas overwhelm them that are beyond the scope and range of those around them, of those humans, the way they have defined the world. The geniuses see the world in ways not yet defined, and yet ways more true than any around them have seen. They are at the forefront of evolution, and the things they bring through, no matter which branch they are specialized in, whether it's the sciences, the arts, politics, any realm of human endeavor. In all these realms, the genius brings something extraordinary. And it is the geniuses alone, my people, that are responsible for the evolution of civilizations. Indeed, for the creation of the word civilization. The word civilized has only come from the adoption of fifth kingdom insight by fourth kingdom peoples and the resulting improvements in life and awareness as a result of these happening over thousands of years. But coming back to the fifth kingdom, these people have not had a rosy time on the planet. Most of the time they bring things in, they butt right up against the accepted norms and ways of seeing the world, and they are usually pushed right back to the place they began. So they never get to emerge. They're seldom recognized, often always abused and opposed by especially by systemic structures of authority and people used to the blessings and privileges of their authority, who ideas, where certain ideas, if they were allowed to run rampant, would certainly question and possibly usurp. So they would threaten so as usual, their livelihood, their positions, self-protection, selfish self-protection has usually been the downfall of almost every attempt to improve humanity. And probably will continue to be so for a while to come. So the gatekeepers, the fifth kingdom has railed against this. And those fifth kingdom people we call the geniuses. We know they are a breed apart from us. We know. However, coming back to the kingdoms now, to the law operating that you can only know one kingdom above your own, we now come back to the animal kingdom. And the animal kingdom we have, imagine sitting next to me in this place, Albert Einstein. Oh, I would love that, to be able to sit and talk with him, or Nikola Tesla. It would be fabulous. So imagine me sitting here. Next to me is Mr. Tesla himself. And I'm like, well, all the things I would love to know and just gain insight from this man's titanic consciousness, and let it influence mine and mine widen in response, and be able to grasp some of the things he's brought through to appreciate them. Yes, that's clearly evident to me. Now, in front of us on the carpet here is my dog, my faithful hound, my third kingdom, my trusted confidant, my faithful, the one who responds to my every word, my every action, my every need anticipated, my every bound to me, in love with me, devotional to this fourth kingdom that stands above it, which I am an evolutionary force for. This animal sits there, and to the animal, he or she knows no difference between myself and this being sitting opposite me. This one for whom myself, there is a clear difference between how I am made and how this one is made. I am fourth kingdom. I can see the fifth kingdom in front of me. Yes? The animal cannot. For the animal, whether Nikola Tesla or I give it some food or pat it, it is the same. For it has no means to differentiate that a higher order of existence touches into matter here in this fifth kingdom form. It has no means to discern this, to even tell. You see, its network hasn't been developed. It's fantastic. And so here we sit. Now we can better understand, after this explanation, where we stand in the fourth kingdom and why the beings of the fifth kingdom as they are as they are, and why and how we will, as we will see, our whole civilization is poised to enter into this fifth kingdom. And the purpose of my talks is to help usher a way into this. Individually, when you understand the dynamics of what I speak of, and collectively, when many individuals apply this. The time upon us is now. These understandings are spreading through the world. Many secret societies have kept these teachings hidden, even though they do not need to be hidden anymore in the world of information overflow and access. They can now be freely broadcast as they are protected under the guise of misinformation or fancy. Great, universal, luminescent truths lying on bookshelves in plain sight, hidden from view, unless you are in pursuit of them. Then they have a way of finding you, as they did me, for I searched. I felt unbelieved, and I knew, and I found, and I saw, and so I know. So, the fifth kingdom. I sit here with Nikola Tesla and am superbly delighted. All my friends as well. We're just, John Lennon. You can replace this being with 1 million people, but not really that many. For remember, the third kingdom is many, the fourth kingdom are fewer. Even though we are 8 billion, we're still fewer than the animals on the planet. And so the fifth kingdom are even fewer. We are, compared to the mass of humanity, 8 billion, we are the fifth kingdom, mere handfuls here. Pockets speckled throughout time, emerging. One being can shape a whole civilization. One Chopin, one Mozart, one Beethoven, one Bach, one group of such people can mold an entire 100 years of civilization. A couple of writers in Europe in the 1700s, the French ones, the Germans, shaping entire civilizations with their outpourings, with their thought, with this highly refined thought, drawn fifth kingdom awareness brought into the printed word, into the musical score. Yes, it already began way back. As long as humanity has had civilization, there have been geniuses. In fact, every civilization that began has been founded upon a revelation brought into this world by the fifth kingdom. All we are saying now is that this fifth kingdom is going to become part and parcel of our existence, and we are leaving the fourth kingdom to enter into it. This is the inspiration age, dawning out of the information age, purely fourth kingdom information age. Inspiration age is the fifth kingdom. And we stand in front of it collectively. Now you can see what the fifth kingdom is, who we have been, how few there have been, but also not necessarily a desirable place to be yet, historically, for their life has been hardship. Their ideals have not been embraced, have not been loved, most often not during their lifetime. If they have been incredibly lucky, they have been recognized by someone while they yet lived, and they have been supported, patronized, which used to be a beautiful term. To be patronized used to mean that you were supported by a patron. Sad that it has become its reverse. In the usual way, patronization was the lifting up and recognition of great talent and the support of that to be brought into the world. So the geniuses had patrons, but they were few, so few, and yet so few left such a mark upon the world. Okay, this heralds great things, people. For what can you imagine when the few start to become the more, start to become the many? Yes, these many, when they start to become a certain number, let's call that morphogenetic field push point, 13% or 8, whatever percentage number of a race it needs to sort of jump into something before everyone else adopts it. The 100th monkey effect. Yes. If you haven't heard of it, look it up. Fantastic understanding of how etogenics beyond visible structures drive systems, consciousness systems, evolutionary systems. So at some point, enough human beings will tap into this. My role is to facilitate this individual tap in, this direction, this manifestation of fifth kingdom energy within our individual selves, so that we may form part of this growing, unfolding now process of cosmic individuation, of creative influx of another dimension of light into human consciousness and holding it here. In order to hold it here, we must have certain powers. This is like a kind of lightning. If this force enters into you and you do not hold it well enough, it will destroy you. It is not without reason that they say so. It is truly so. That's why many of the Indian yogis say, do not seek to awaken your kundalini, you fools. It will awaken by itself, and it will. But those who rush to attain this have no understanding of the powers they need to attain, to manage this great power once unleashed. It cannot be packed away again. If it is unleashed without the proper readiness within the self, it will destroy rather than create. For life only gives itself its power to those who are able to hold it. Life only gives token power to those who misuse it. And although we see an enormous misuse of power in this world, rest assured, this is just the token power that life has given to the human race, the fourth kingdom, in order to be able to abuse and learn from abusing. As it abuses others, it ultimately comes to learn that it abuses itself, for it is not separate. One of the hallmarks of the fifth kingdom is that there is no separation. There is understanding of, there is a seeing, an active seeing in the fifth kingdom of one great life suffusing all. There is no separation in the fifth kingdom. No idea is separate from another. The 100 symphonies form the great chords, the symphonies of the planets. The highest octaves of vibration are held right in front of us, continuously flowing through the space, ready to be picked up, ready to be received and transmitted. And the fifth kingdom's job is this. Now let's come back to us as an individual. As the fourth kingdom, standing in front of this fifth kingdom, how are we to understand how to get into this place? How are we to understand ourselves so that we may understand this lock, see it, understand the key, and how to operate these two together? And for this gateway I call, in order to understand the lock and the key, the perfect relationship needs to be understood. Salutations and incarnations. This is a very brief intermezzo, intermission, because my original transmission was designed to be around about an hour, and yet I ended up creating a 2-hour broadcast, which is inherently tie-in to itself. But because I don't want to overwhelm you with all that much content at once, because I appreciate that it is a lot to take in and a lot to assimilate, I would just like to take this opportunity to see that where you've actually reached right now is actually the end of the first part of this transmission, okay? And I would like to immediately encourage you, if you like, to watch the next part of this transmission, which I will at the beginning of which remind you to watch the first part, because they are very tie-in together, and they are absolutely necessary and parts of each other. They are like the cog in the wheel, okay? They're like the engine in your car. They're like the key in the ignition. They are needed for each other to go together. So thank you so much for this. At this point, I will stop and stay tuned for the continuation of these thoughts into their grand culmination in this next video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.